The process of aging, the challenges of getting old, the reality of unexpected changes that cover a wide range of territory which for us become all too familiar. Hello, I'm Esther Frank, and this is Inside Out, a program to address a few of those challenges and offer a roadmap to navigate the bumps. With that in mind, we've got information on a free life-saving packet you can put on your refrigerator door, the must-have file of life. Is your home, the one you moved into 40 years ago, a background for disaster, an accident waiting to happen? A home fit expert will point out the hot spots and see what one person in our region has done to make his home safe and livable. But first we'll talk with Peter Ostro, director of the Brown Adult Daycare Program. He knows firsthand the hazy world of people with Alzheimer's. Before we're done, you may have a new view of what Alzheimer's is really all about. We visited the Brown Center in West Bloomfield. Here's Fran Cook, Family Life Coordinator, and Annette Stone with her own very difficult, life-changing story.
The Brown Center is a very special place. The whole idea, the reason for being of the Brown Center is to allow individuals who have dementia to give them the opportunity to be actively engaged in the world around them. The family benefits because they have a break in caregiving, but also they benefit from knowing that their family member is not being warehoused somewhere. They are participating in stimulating activities, so the family doesn't have to feel guilty. They're not putting them somewhere. They're taking them somewhere exciting, somewhere they're going to have fun. And for the people who are here, it's fun. It's fun to be with other people. It's fun to do an art project. It's fun to go on an outing, go out for ice cream, go to a museum, go to a concert. It's fun.
My name is Annette Stone. My husband Alan comes to the Brown Center at least 3 times a week. My husband has Alzheimer's. He has had it for approximately 4 years. I have been coming here approximately a year and a half, and I am thrilled that this facility is available to us in our community. I think I first started noticing some symptoms in Alan when obviously he was forgetful. He couldn't find his keys. He couldn't find his glasses. I remember one incident when he was driving home and he was late, and I became very concerned, and I called on his phone and he said, "You know, I missed the exit." And so that sort of got me thinking that perhaps something was amiss. I have been extraordinarily lucky with my family and my friends and the support group that I have amongst them. It makes a big difference.
The cost, the general cost is $15.50 an hour. That is for people who are here for a partial day. We do have some people who come here for a full day, which we define as 5.5 to 7 hours. If someone is here for a full day, then it moves to a daily rate, which is $82. And we also offer a weekly rate for people who are here all day, Monday through Friday, and that is $380. So there's a significant cost savings for someone who's with us more often. There is some financial assistance available for people. They have to be able to demonstrate financial need. We help as many people as we can.
Alan was always very active athletically. He was jogging when no one was jogging. He used to get headaches and decided that he would go out for a run, and that seemed to help his headaches. He's been running for over 50 years. He has run marathons. He's run 13 marathons, including the Boston and New York Marathon. He was an avid golfer. He was always attending lectures, and he was just very, very active. The Brown Center has been very instrumental in helping me keep him going into somewhat of a lifestyle that he was accustomed to.
I just want to go back to the point again about to families, to encourage families to give it a try, because some families say to me on the phone, I heard about your program, I heard great things, and down the road I think we might want to utilize your services, but it's not time yet. And I like to ask them, well, what makes you say it's not time yet? Maybe it is. Maybe your family member can come here as a volunteer and help some of the other people. So you're getting the break you need, they're getting their self-esteem needs met, and it can be a win-win.
Peter Ostro, Master's in Social Work, has been working with families and older adults for 40 years in hospitals, community health settings, and for the last 15 years as the Brown Program Director. He is also an adjunct instructor at Wayne State University's School of Social Work, teaching classes on issues of aging for professional social workers. He oversees unique and compassionate ways to care for people with varying stages of memory loss. Welcome, Peter. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Esther, for inviting me to your show.
My first question is about memory loss, the words that define the people in your world: memory loss, Alzheimer's, dementia. Can you give us some clarification about those words?
Yes, that's a very important question, because people do get very confused about hearing all this different terminology. To try to simplify it, dementia is really not a diagnosis. It's a set of signs and symptoms. Think of it as an umbrella term, and it involves loss of memory. It involves other types of change in cognitive functions, the ability to communicate, to speak, the ability to reason, to solve problems, and in the real world to carry out what we call the activities of daily living. And it's a progressive type of condition, so there's, in the initial stages, people don't have too much change from how they've been. It's a very gradual process, but it can end up with devastating changes in how people are no longer able to function as they were. Now, dementia is always caused by a disease process. And Alzheimer's disease that we hear so much about is really about 2/3 of all the cases of dementia, and so that's why we hear more about it. But at our program, with the two Brown Centers, we see many other, I've counted up to over 20 different conditions that have come to us. The most common are people who have changes in their circulatory system. We now call that vascular dementia, typically involving a series of small strokes or sometimes a massive stroke that, because it's damaging part of the brain, results in some very serious losses. Sometimes it coincides with Alzheimer's. The risk factors for both overlap. Another type of a dementia that we see is caused by Parkinson's disease or a related disorder called Lewy body dementia. And that involves what we typically think of as Parkinson's, some of the movement changes that make it harder for people to walk, even to manipulate their lips and tongue to be able to talk clearly, as well as sometimes very serious emotional changes and ultimately also memory changes. So each of these disease processes has its own challenges, especially when we think of the family members who are caring for these individuals. Just to mention a few other diseases that can cause dementia, multiple sclerosis is one, some types of muscular dystrophy, serious head injuries. We've all heard recently about the football players and the settlement that they had. People with a lot of repeated head injuries, boxers, the football players are very much at risk. So there's increasing awareness that they also fall under that category of dementia.
So these people with all these various forms of dementia, we'll see them, or we've seen them at the center. These are your clients.
Yes.
And they come there where there are a lot of things that address certain needs: the art, therapy, the music, the exercise. It looks like activity, but there's a reason for all of this. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. We've learned a tremendous amount in the last couple of decades about how to help people with Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. Sadly, although there's been a tremendous amount of medical research, the medications that have been available have a very limited impact on the course of the illness, and not everybody even responds to those medications, who has Alzheimer's or other disorders. So really, it's been a great challenge for their caregivers. And there's been wonderful research in terms of the field of Alzheimer's caregiving. And what we have learned is that just because people come to us with Alzheimer's, and we take people at every stage of the illness, if we focus on their intact abilities, on what's still there rather than what they've lost, we find that they're able to enjoy almost all the familiar activities they've done earlier in life, and in some cases even enjoy some new ones they may never have tried. I think you came to an art activity and you saw some people there. Some had actually been amateur or professional artists, and others had never done art before. And yet they were all, there was an outpouring of creativity. And that not only engages them in the moment, but it increases their self-esteem, their confidence, their ability to connect with others. So there's tremendous therapeutic benefits to all the activities that we do. I can talk about a few others. We do some form of exercise each day at the Brown Center, sometimes more than one. People like to have choices, right? And so we do exercises that involve range of motion, because we know, the old saying, use it or lose it. If people don't keep moving, they lose the abilities to be able to care for themselves, even, to pick up food and put it into their mouth. And sometimes, because if people have been in a setting where they don't have, let's say an institutional setting, and they don't have enough staff to help motivate them, they may just withdraw, become depressed, and they're losing their physical abilities and their ability to interact. So in all these activities, we're trying to maintain function, to maximize function, to help them connect with other people who are going through the same thing. And we do Tai Chi, we do yoga. Some people say, how can people do Tai Chi? Isn't that a martial art? Well, we adapt everything. We do it in a very fluid way where it's very comforting, very relaxing. It helps balance. Falls are one of the main risks of older adults, let alone people who also have dementia. And we know those can be devastating to people's health. So there's a very strong preventive part of what we do. We're very concerned about safety. We also try to keep people connected with the community. So we do an average 2 or 3 field trips a week. We go to concerts. We go to art galleries and museums. You'd be amazed at the response that people have who may, I remember one woman telling me, we went to the Detroit Institute of Arts, and she said, I haven't been to this place in years. I used to come here all the time. It's very hard for the families because of safety reasons to get them out, and this is a big part of what we do in our program, to keep them involved with the community.
So socializing is a big part. That's what you're talking about in many different ways, many different forms. And in the classes themselves, the Tai Chi, and there's a gathering of people. And the instructors who run those programs, are they specially trained, like in art or music or exercise?
Yes. All of our staff, we have both professional staff who have had a degree, and of course we have an art therapist who's licensed. But all of our staff, our direct care staff, our program assistants who do the hands-on care, we determined early on that it was important for them to get the best kind of education. So we've sent all of them over the years to different conferences where they've had really world-class training. As a result of that, we have an incredible longevity for our staff. I would say that we've been open now going on 14 years at Southfield, 13 years in West Bloomfield. And the average staff member has been there 7 or 8 years. This is very rare in the field of long-term care, where the turnover is usually 1.5 to 2 years. We're very proud of that, and it's allowed us to have a very cohesive team. The staff learn from each other, and because there's so much new information coming out, training is ongoing. for myself, and I go to a lot of conferences, I bring back the information. That's when any staff member who goes to a conference has to bring back and share that information at a staff meeting, and they love doing that.
Is the Brown Center, both you mentioned Southfield and West Bloomfield,
Yes.
Are they open to everybody?
Well, everybody who has a dementia diagnosis, that's the one, whether it's Alzheimer's or another. And we welcome people from all parts of the community, all ethnic groups, racial, religious backgrounds. That's part of our mission. And one thing I'll say, if there's a silver lining to some of these disorders, we were wondering, would some of the prejudices that people grew up with still come out? In 99% of the cases, people don't seem to see color or differences. They just want to connect as human beings, and that's really beautiful. And they also get to enjoy learning about each other's cultures, so that's some of the sharing that we do.
That is beautiful. It's seamless. It's just all welcome. Everybody's welcome.
That's right.
Do you ever have a situation at either one of the centers where you may have clients who have advanced degrees of their dementia? They may be unruly. They may not have control of bodily functions. We're in this world, Peter. These things must happen.
They do. And that is one of the devastating things about dementia disorders. People are living longer. There's better control, of various disease processes. It's not unusual that people have been in our program where they were diagnosed perhaps 20 years ago, and they're still physically well, but the dementia has advanced considerably. And what we have done, and we are committed, as long as people are physically able, to be around others. In other words, they don't have extensive tubing and that level of medical involvement. We keep people through their whole journey. We have had some people who have been with us, and the next day or so they passed away. Some are in hospice. We do have nurses at each site that help us deal with those situations, but most important is we have found activities, sensory-based activities. When people no longer have language, they can still communicate and connect with the world through manipulating objects, through enjoying relaxing music, through aromatherapy. We'll do that sort of thing, so familiar smells can be very important. And all of this enables people to have a decent quality of life. Some people get to the point where they need one-on-one companionship. Fortunately, we got a major endowment through Bill and Audrey Farber, and I can announce this because this is not public news. It's a significant endowment. It helps pay for a number of our programming aspects, but the new part, which is very unique, is that it allows for us to, through adjusting the fee, enable the family to hire a companion or allow us to hire extra staffing in some cases to do that, to give one-on-one help in the program. This is beyond our usual budgetary means because we have a 1-to-5 ratio, but some people really need 1-to-1 throughout the day. And this is a wonderful advance because these people otherwise may have had to go to an institutional setting like a nursing home. It allows them to stay at home when their families want them to.
And so, that part of it, their home life, we haven't addressed the caregivers at home. And what we've been talking about is so important for the clients and the people who are there for the reasons they're there, but they're also there to give the people at home a break. They almost have equal weight. It's
you're right. It's an equal part of our mission to support the family caregiver as well as the person with disease. There was a book written some years ago, The 36-Hour Day. That's just a metaphor for what it feels like to be a caregiver. You have no time for yourself. As the disease progresses, it takes more and more effort for the caregiver to give the right kind of care. They became, so involved in that person's life that sometimes their own health declines and they neglect themselves. They don't have time to go to their doctor's appointment or keep up with friends and so on. So we do a lot to shore them up. You've already heard from Fran Cook, the Family Life Coordinator at the Jewish Senior Life Brown Center in West Bloomfield. We also have a full-time master's level social work in Southfield. And this is unusual in the daycare field to have a full-time social worker. But they do so much to support the families. They each do 2 support groups a month, one in the afternoon, one in the evening. Those are wonderful because family members come together. They feel so isolated. And now, just like the people with dementia have other people to connect with, maybe for the first time they're with other caregivers, realizing they're not in this alone. There are other people who can share their experience, they're savvy about how to handle different situations. We do periodic training. One that's coming up that we've done with the Alzheimer's Association is the Creating Confident Caregivers, a 6-session series that's taught by excellent presenters. While the caregiver comes, their loved one, if they don't have somebody else to watch them at home, can come into the program for 2 or 3 hours. That's all covered by the Area Agency on Aging. We try to become part of a seamless continuum of services in the community. That's really our goal. And one thing I love about working in this field of aging is there's not much territoriality. We realize it takes a village, so to speak, to care for these people. There's no one service that can do it all, and there's a wonderful spirit of cooperation in this community.
This is an amazing concept that you've been describing. I have the sense of this overall support, not only the community, but even breaking it down where you have these support groups. Yes. That become a big part of the picture. Yes. I think about all this is just very important, very daunting to hear about. And I'd like to know, we're almost at the end. Peter, do you have phone numbers that you can tell us for the place in Southfield and West Bloomfield?
Sure.
That people may want to use? The
number to call in the greater Southfield area, we'll say, is 248-233-4000. And we made sure that somebody will always answer that phone number. You don't get a recording. And that would be our reception person there, our office technician, Barbara Adler. And, she will get the call to Dorothy or myself. Or if we're not available, we'll call back later that day. And the number in the West Bloomfield, Farmington area would be 248-592-5032, and that goes directly to Fran Cook's phone. But, if she's out in the field working with the family, again, we call in for messages and we'll call back within the day. And people value that because, it's so frustrating calling a number. And, I'm going to give you one other number just because it's another. This is a doorway to all the services in the Jewish community and beyond. And that's 248-661-1836. That's a new system that went into play. We call it the one-number system. But you can connect with any services, including our program and others. And it's good for people to know that.
Very good. Thank you, Peter, for all the wonderful information you've provided today. Very important to hear about your world. After the break, I'll talk with Diane Bright, home fit expert, about making your home safe. We'll also meet Tim Brown. He managed living with legs damaged by polio until he needed to make a few changes. And we've also got information on free life-saving packet you can put on your refrigerator door, the must-have vial of life. This is Esther Frank, and we'll be right back with more Inside Out. Welcome back to Inside Out. I'm Esther Frank. Life has its challenges in one form or another, and in the best case scenario, we find ways to deal with the stumbling blocks, jump over the hurdles, make daily living a little easier. For many, maybe you face those hurdles every day in your own home. A stairway that's difficult to navigate, a countertop that's too high, a bathroom that's unsafe. Okay when you're 40, a threat to your life now. One local contractor specializes in breaking down these barriers and creating a living environment that is aesthetically pleasing and functional for your lifestyle. One of those satisfied customers visits us now on Inside Out.
Hello, I'm Tim Brown, and I'm a polio survivor, and my initial visit to Elder Living Construction was to take a look at their facility, their services, their abilities in terms of how it might relate to a fellow disabled person or to myself as I needed to improve the living conditions in my own home. I began to become increasingly less able. My muscles were weaker, and I find that I needed more help, and I had to concentrate more on just being careful and walking through the house and doing normal activities. So certain things that used to be a given, now I had to plan around which way to walk, which way is safer, that sort of thing. The remodel was intended to be a complete facelift. I live in a 60-plus-year-old home, and we hadn't done a major remodel. So I wanted to make it look new and improved and yet safe. Yet the end result was to be not hospital-like, not industrial. I wanted it to be a bathroom, that, in this case a bathroom, that anybody would have in their home, yet I knew it was safer for me. In terms of our project, the safety factors that don't immediately meet the eye when you walk in, but yet are there for my purposes, is to decide how high the curb needs to be for the walk-in shower. There's a standard height, and then there's a height that maybe is better for me. I don't raise my leg quite that high on a typical step. And you don't want a curb that you're going to trip over, because all the grab bars that there may be around the bathroom won't help you if you trip as you step into the shower. So that and the placement of and the number of safety bars and such are very helpful, but they're done in such a way as they don't look like a hospital bathroom. It's very well done and very tasteful. They have a stove cooktop, for example, that you push a button and it can raise to standard counter height, or you can reduce it if you're working from a wheelchair or from a scooter or a sitting position. And many things along that nature. These cabinets and the pantries, they have things built into them, make it more accessible for someone who might have a disability versus a standard pantry. Yet on the surface, it looks like a brand new kitchen and not necessarily an institution, which is our hope.
Tim Brown made changes to address his new physical challenges. You can too. Diane Bright knows that from the start. She's a home fit expert. She's a graduate of Wayne State University and a registered licensed occupational therapist. She has a Master's of Science with distinction in Access and Inclusive Design and has published and presented widely at international level. Diane is a consultant to the National Home Builders Association for development of their course for Certified Aging in Place Specialist. She's a volunteer for AARP and instructor for their Home Fit program, and is consulting with AARP on creating lifetime communities. Welcome, Diane. Wow, what a resume. Outstanding. The first question I want to ask you about is about physical challenges and the difficulty people have in even having to think about making a change.
Well, Esther, change is inevitable. The C word that I like to use is choice. If you look at what your barriers are, what your issues are with your environment, you free yourself up to make choices regarding that environment.
And so those choices, how do we identify them? Is there a checklist of things to think about?
Absolutely. To make things easier, just to get a handle on what you need to do to make your environment more adaptable to your needs, AARP has checklists for every part of your home that you could go through and actually see what meets those checklist questions, and then develop the answers with the consultants that can help you erase the challenges that the environment causes.
Can you just kind of give us a little preview of what's on that list, small things that people can think about right now?
Sure, absolutely. One of the things that we would look at would be, let's say, your bathroom. Do you have throw rugs in the bathroom that could possibly be a trip hazard? Are you able to get into the door of the bathroom should you need to use a walking device for a knee replacement surgery? Is your bathroom door too narrow? What fixtures do you have in your bathroom? Do you have one of those low-rise toilets that are much more difficult to get on and off of than what we would call a comfort height toilet, which is a toilet that is higher and allows you to get up and down easier? Those would be some of the few things that we would look at for safety in a bathroom, much more detailed on the checklist, of course.
Which is the most unsafe room in the house?
You're going to get hurt if you're in the bathroom and you fall. Slips and falls are the major causes of injuries for people. Stairs and bathroom areas are the two areas that we find most often cause falls.
At what point should one be thinking about greater changes, something bigger than tacking down your rugs or grab bars, but more serious modifications? What's the next big step that people might think about?
I would think that the time is now. The time is before you need to make those changes. The time is to make your environment friendly. I call it repurposing. You repurposed your home throughout your life. When you lived in a one-bedroom apartment, it was purposeful for you to use that one bedroom as your sleep area, your study area. And then you maybe moved to a little home and then had children and found out the house didn't work for you, so you repurposed at that time. And if you can do your repurposing ahead of need, then the need won't possibly be there because you've chosen to create or to move to an environment that enhances what you do every day rather than causes a barrier for the activities you do every day.
Aging in place, that covers, that we're using those words. It covers a lot of territory, and you've been talking about safety and access, which are so important. What other things should we be thinking about?
In place means that you can stay where you choose to stay, be there with whom you want to be with, and to do what you want to do. And I would think the most important thing is to know not only what your home environment inside or what allows you to get outside is safe, but can you connect to the community? Are you able to get to the pharmacy, or maybe the pharmacy can come to you? Do you have services that are readily available? Can you contact the outside world through technology or through a village, which would be your neighbors? And the importance is not just what's inside the door after you enter your home, but what's afforded to you outside that door, which would be your community.
That's a big part of the picture, and I'm only now beginning to hear people talk about that outside part of the community. I've heard people say aging in place is good for what it is, but it also is isolating.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the, I would say, the caveat with making sure that communities are involved in supporting elders to stay where they want to stay, where they choose to stay. If you can't get to the grocery store, the most beautiful home that allows you to move around it safely doesn't mean a whole lot because you can't get your food. So it's an ability to provide transport, to provide checkups. Is there someone that's checking in on you through telecommunications, through your iPad, through a cell phone, or maybe your neighbor knocking on your door? So it's a lot more than the reason that you moved into a community was not just because of the house, but because you could engage, and that's what we want to continue to do.
And so at some point it becomes maybe a very difficult decision for people to have to think about. Is this a time to move? Is there ever a time when it's a good time to move to another place? Again,
choice. If you are not able to access the medical care that you will need as we age, that just for the service of being able to have checkups, is it close to you? Can you get there? Can you be transported? Being safe is also being healthy. So can I get out? Can I walk safely where I am? One of the things that is very engaging with communities in the rest of the world is the ability to engage with the community that you live in, get the elders to a community center, get them to activities that keep them active. Again, the most beautiful house on the inside, if you're sitting in the chair and just watching TV, is not going to keep you healthy.
You've given us a lot to think about, changes. These are pretty big changes at a time of life, again, when we talked about change being choice rather than change, the small and the large things that are going to come up. You've made it kind of accessible for us to think about. I'm wondering, Diane, if there's anything else you want to add at this point.
Sure. I think that you need to start somewhere. So start by doing what you have control of, and that's your environment. And when you go through any of the checklists, if you want to access the Home Fit site of AARP, there will be a home safety checklist there. There are others that are out there. And actually walk through your home. They also have a checklist for your community, which tells you, is this community age-friendly? And if it's not, be proactive. Come to the community and say, I want to stay here. I chose to move here whenever, and I would love to stay here and be engaged. This is what I need. But the first place you can do that is in your own environment. Make it safe, make it friendly, and make it able for others to come and visit you. Perhaps you won't be using a cane or a walker or a wheelchair, but maybe your mother will be, maybe your best friend will be, maybe it's temporary with a hip replacement surgery, and you have a birthday dinner every year with this group. Don't isolate them, don't isolate yourself. Be engaged.
And that ramp, I could visualize that ramp that people have to put up, maybe not even for themselves, but for people who are coming to their home, and make it easier to get in.
And that's when you go through the checklist, or if you consult with somebody that can say, is there an aesthetic way for me to do this? My first suggestions are always to do something that does not deter from the design of the home. And a graded walkway, which when you come into a community public building, you will see quite often. Landscaping can bring the car up to the door and then exit that way. You don't have to do something that is going to be medically designed. You do something that works with the design of your home and keeps it the way you want it to be, welcoming, friendly, and able to let anybody come visit.
Diane, I can't thank you enough. It's been wonderful having you here with all the great information you've given our viewers. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Before we go, let's find out about the File of Life from West Bloomfield Fire Department. Here's Chris Mars.
Hi, my name is Chris Mars. I'm with the West Bloomfield Fire Department. I'm here today to talk to you about a very important program that we brought to West Bloomfield 5 or 6 years ago. It's called the File of Life. The File of Life is a medical information packet that goes on your refrigerator in your home by way of this magnet, and it provides us as medical emergency providers with all the information we need to know about you in the event of a medical emergency. This card, when you fill it out, you fill it out in pencil so you can erase and update it as needed. You fill it out and it has your name, your medical history, your allergies, your medications, your recent surgeries, emergency contacts, pretty much everything we need to know about you that would be normally asking somebody in the event of an emergency. This File of Life is a great program because a lot of times when someone calls 911, it's the worst day of their life. They can be in a panic. They can forget things. Someone can be unconscious and not being able to tell us anything. So we have to kind of guess as to what's going on in order to treat you properly. we kind of have to guess your medical history and to give us a clear course of how to treat you. We will treat you appropriately based on our assessment and our findings from what's going on. However, this will give us a better idea of to maybe more quickly treat you. A lot of times people are on medications, and they've been on medications for years, and they don't know why they're on them. The doctor just told them to take it. They don't even know the names. So this will give us an idea of what the names are and the dosage, which would be important for us and the doctors at the hospital. A lot of times people don't know their medical history. If you have trouble remembering your medical history, it might be good to fill this out with a relative, a son, a daughter, granddaughter, grandson, whomever, to help you fill this out to get a better understanding of what your medical conditions are. A lot of times we'll have to look through the house to find your medications, or in a refrigerator, or someone hands us a big bag of stuff. This will be a clear, organized way to be able to get that information. Sometimes people are unconscious and can't talk to us, or they're breathing so hard that they can't talk to us. So we don't have to burden somebody with asking questions while you're in such distress. This will give us all the answers we need. With this packet is a little sticker that you'd place on your front door or window of your home that will alert us that you have the File of Life. So we'll go right to your refrigerator and find this right on your refrigerator. It's great for people who live alone because from experience we've gone to a lot of people who don't have anyone else home with them, and they're either, like I said, unconscious or having such a hard time breathing, or their memory isn't the great anymore, and they don't know what's going on. They can't tell us what's going on in some way, shape, or form. So this will help us out immensely. It's also great for people who have family members who don't speak English. This is a very diverse community, different cultures, and a lot of people don't speak English. And sometimes those family members are left alone at home that don't speak English. And so they are able to call 911. However, when we get there, they are not able to communicate with us because we're not speaking their native language. So this will help us out with that. It's great for people who have significant memory issues, dementia or Alzheimer's, that might live alone, or they're still independent enough to be able to live alone, but they have some memory issues. So this will give you peace of mind and reassurance for yourself or your family member in the event of an emergency. It's great for children with allergies. It's great for older adults that might have more significant and chronic medical conditions. Young or old, sick or not, this is great to have, even just for someone, just for sheer fact of identification of you, so we don't have to search for your wallet or purse at your home. The File of Life is available at any of our 6 fire stations during normal business hours, 7 days a week. It's also available at Town Hall during normal business hours. If you have any questions about the File of Life, please feel free to contact our fire administration at 248-409-1505. Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Inside Out. If you would like more information about our show or want to watch it anytime, simply go to the internet. You'll find us at civiccentertv.com. Have an idea for the show? I'd love to see it. Please send me an email. My address is esther@civiccentertv.com. That's all the time we have for Inside Out. I'm Esther Frank, and until next time, be healthy and safe.